Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Let me tell you, folks, one thing after another. I missed a beautiful sunrise this morning. I could have gotten pictures of, but work. I swear to you, after changing careers, work got so much more diverse. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about a few things today. I saw something on the news. I was watching our local, Channel 3 affiliate, which is, I think, ABC. And I can't believe the audacity of some. I don't know whose idea it was, but you know it had to come from someone within our local government, that they had this perspective of it's time now to whine and cry about what the government isn't going to get in the way of property taxes. And if you're not from Texas, then maybe this is a little new to you, but our state does not have a state income tax to speak of. Although there's been many on the political left who've wanted to try to institute one with the bait of trying to convince us that somehow that is going to reduce our overall tax burden. We do have a light corporate tax, but the bulk of what we receive comes from property taxes. And when we had a major hurricane just recently, back in August, that devastated a number of resorts, hotels, motels, and the like, it substantially is going to reduce the tax assessment value of that property, which means that there'll be less money coming into the federal government, or federal government, state government, and on through county government. This was just horrendous. As far as you can see, I think people were about to cry. Now that is a gorgeous sunrise, and one in which I would have been able to capture even more of its beauty earlier on, but that's just absolutely gorgeous. And so I still say you get a chance to see a little bit of it, but this is the red at dawn, red at morning, sailors take warning, indicator that we have a cold front coming through, a significant change in weather. But as we make this drive to work, I'm driving a vehicle I probably shouldn't be driving because it's got issues with the oil sensor that I need to get changed out, but coordinating with the mechanic seems to be almost impossible for the schedule I have. Had a very busy weekend. Talk to you about some of that. Great organizations and groups that are promoting fitness, health, plus a hired gig that I thoroughly enjoyed. Shooting my first bar mitzvah was a lot of fun. It's a multiple part photography gig. But the thing that got me most, and again, I was in a regular happy mood, no grumpiness whatsoever, nothing that would artificially set me off. And I see the taxing entities giving the woe is me approach to discussing how much lower the tax revenue is going to be, because some people, I mean, all the improvements, the hotel, the motel, the washaterias, the whatever it is, the dry cleaners, they no longer have a business standing. It's rubble in parts of the county's taxing district. And I'm thinking, what do you think it feels like to be the people who lost everything that you want to tax? And I think time and time again, one of the biggest perspectives that's lost is that taxing entities are not a business like everything else. I'm sorry, you guys. I know that there's a lot of good working people that are involved in all of it who have not lost perspective. But those at the top seem to have a significant problem in understanding that they don't make money, they take money, and they redistribute the money. And for services that some of us would agree with, regardless of what political perspective you come from. But you're not making the money. How do you think it feels to be on the other end of it when year after year there are businesses that don't do as well as they did before, but yet the property valuation is going to be assessed at a higher rate, meaning they're going to pay more taxes? And that happens every year. Unless you go down and debate the tax assessor collectors, sometimes you can do it by phone. Most of the time you're going to have to come in and meet with an individual. Take time out of your schedule and plead a case that you have to construct on your own, or you can appoint somebody to do so, you're going to pay more taxes. Rarely, it does happen, but rarely are they going to assess your property as a lower value than it was the year before, regardless of the economy. Having gone down and been a property owner year after year after year, I find it astonishing that your purchase price seems to be of little or no interest in the calculation. Everything else that the tax system is based on, other than the purchase price, is completely subjective. I don't care what other properties have that are similar to the one that I have, unless you come down and pay the money for it. That's the only way you're going to know how much it's worth. End of story. When I bought my first house, even though it was not in accordance with state law, they wanted to increase my property valuation by $60,000. Now, it's not going up in taxes to that extent because it's based on whatever the percentage of tax rate that we have. But going up $60,000 in 1 year was absurd. They're not supposed to go up more than 20 or something to that extent at the time. I had to go down, and they thought that was going to pacify me to begin with. But then as I continued to point out, this is what I paid for the property. You can't expect that in 1 year it's going to go up $60,000. You have to take pictures of any and all flaws that could exist, cracks in the foundation. The only good tactic I can advise you on if you live in the state of Texas is to find any signs that you may have foundation problems. And quite honestly, many people have some beginnings, possibility, and or real foundation problems. And many of the foundation repair companies will give you a free assessment or evaluation of your foundation, so it doesn't cost you anything. Not everybody will, and that used to be the case. They may have started charging now because of the frequency of what I'm about to tell you as a strategy in combating the automatic increase in your property valuation, meaning an increase automatically in taxes. And you also have to realize, like many people who don't work to take the deductions on their income tax return, they know that many people are not going to take their time to go down and argue the tax increase that they're going to have to pay. Many people get tunnel vision, apparently, when in positions of leadership in taxation, and they start looking at it as if it's their right to take this money from you. It's only something that functions because we, the people, have elected for it to be so. And I think even we forget. The government at any level is only taking money from us because we've given them that permission. Now, we may not be in the majority and don't want to give them that money, but nonetheless, it's legalized extortion at that point. They are forcing you to pay the money, and they have the legal right to force you to do so. Legalized extortion. They don't like that term, but I don't like taxes, and I don't like government. Some of it's necessary, absolutely. We wouldn't have roads to drive on, streets, and other such things. And it's, I think, also a disingenuous defense by those who want to see taxes taken and wealth redistributed, who always want to bring that up as their first point. Well, that's great. We all agree on the roads and the rest of it. But that's not all that there is to most of the taxes. And when you have fewer people to serve because they've lost their entire improvements, that's what they refer to as any kind of building, business or private, in which you've made on the land that you own, or that you're buying, or that you're leasing, whatever it may be. When the improvements are gone, unused because of a devastating storm, you have fewer services that you're going to be providing to them. Now, it's probably not proportionate, but neither is the services that we get for the taxes that we pay. I can promise you, when you look at how much is eaten up in administrative costs and other bureaucracy that goes along with it, we're not getting a proportionate service for the amount of taxes that we pay. And especially those of you that no longer or never had or will never have children that go to any of the public schools, you're definitely not getting a proportionate return on the taxes that you pay. Now, granted, not having a quality education for the children who grew up to be adults working in the area in which you live is an impact on you. But let's not ever let those people who forcibly take money from us that we do earn, dollars that we create, simply to take on this mentality as a taxing entity that it's owed, or that it's their right to take it, or that, you know, they have a right to complain when we don't have the money to give them. Government entities, taxing entities in particular, survive solely off the sweat, tears, and blood of people who create income. And it offends me that somehow we're treating them as if they're just another business, and a horrible business impacted so negatively. They're not the ones impacted negatively. We are. They serve us. So even in the context of woe is the government, we can't do everything, we don't know how we're going to afford to do what we typically do as government, it's not woe is you, it's woe is us. And that perspective was lost. I have nothing against the good people, even some of those, or an individual which was at the top that I heard Ronnie Canales going on about the situation, whether it was the tone and the perspective of those being interviewed at the top, or whether it was Channel 3's lack of perspective due to the youth and inexperience of whomever it was writing that story. Either way, it's still wrong. And of course, they're going to be very upset because I'm snapping at them. But you know what? Sometimes without that sting, people don't learn to think about the perspective of those, or the perspective that they should have in these kind of circumstances. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, there are people still living in tents, still don't have property back. We have a state representative who's fighting the good fight for us with Todd Hunter, trying to get that perspective back, because it seems that the only perspective that is dominant, or has been dominant, has been that of those representing major cities like Houston, who had severe flooding and tragedy, no doubt. But the first hit, and the last remembered, it seems, in this particular case, is Nueces County and those surrounding counties in this area, Rockport, Port Aransas, areas that make almost all of their annual profit, in many cases, from tourism, people who come to visit, people who come to fish, people who come to relax, spring breakers, holidays, all of that gone now because of a devastating hurricane. And while we're still fighting to get things repaired, reconstructed, money coming in, we have the taxing entities crying about how much they're not going to be bringing in. Well, there's a lot of people who are bringing zero in, but guess what? Now you're still going to want property taxes of some level and some sort, and you know, the mortgages and all the rest of the stuff that these people have as obligations are still part of what's expected from them. And now you're crying because you're not going to be able to get as much, but you're still going to go down and try to assess it for as much as you can. I promise you, even though their value in this is on the negatives, we're going to have people that are going out trying to find out how much they can possibly still tax someone for. And you're going to have a lot of angry people coming down. You'll probably have more showing up than you have before, whatever you assess the value, because they're going to have the time now, because they don't have a business, they don't have a home, and if they have any kind of transportation, they're going to be down there, and they're probably not going to be very happy. And, you know, I feel for the people who are the ones that are going to have to deal with the public on this, because it probably won't be as predictably unpleasant as usual. As most people don't like the fact that they have to go down every year and argue that their property isn't worth so much more that they can't afford it anymore. Which, you know, we have for senior citizens who are likely on a fixed income, or retirees once you reach the age of 65, I believe it is, that your property valuations are frozen so that they don't go up until that property is sold, which is what I think it should be. Quite honestly, I don't have a problem with our government and at county levels throughout the state of Texas having to learn to live on what property has been purchased for, and taxing it at that until there is a new sale price It would take a while for things to catch up, but eventually it would reach equilibrium. It would have to, because when the property is sold for a higher value, that's how much you know it's worth. People who live in the same home for 40 years are not that common anymore. People oftentimes move and sell property because they can benefit from an increased sale price or property valuations that they want to take advantage of, and buy something smaller if they're retired and no longer have kids, or buy something that is more fitting to whatever their needs happen to be. That's the thing that gets me and frustrates me most, though, is that while people are still, I mean, it would be inappropriate at any point in time, but in the midst of having to contend with everything else that people are going through, we have our taxing entity doing the whole poor pitiful me because they're not getting as much in taxes. Got a gorgeous view this morning, but it would have been a bit better had I gotten out and going sooner instead of getting tied up with all sorts of other issues in business. I've got photography and editing and all sorts of other things, but that is a gorgeous sunrise. I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. And it's actually even a little bit too bright for you to be able to fully appreciate right here. I still think I might want to take a picture of this, although I'm a bit disappointed that I wasn't able to get a greater picture sooner. We're going to talk about a few other things coming on and things happening here soon. We'll be on a regular basis. This is a perfect day for me to be able to utilize my sunglasses from, they're awesome Oakley sunglasses from Masters Eyewear Optical right here in Corpus Christi. I'm going to get my no-line bifocal, put in those fantastic lenses, which for the longest time I didn't know was actually even possible. But sure enough, they do now have the option for one to be able to get your benefit from all the awesome lens coatings and unique proprietary formula for creating those lenses through Oakley, and get your prescription, whatever it may be, bifocals or no-line bifocals or whatever your prescription might happen to be, and get it done through Masters Eyewear Optical. It's a husband and wife team that are just absolutely fantastic. Love what they do. And I got to tell you, I got a picture of the moon last night, and I cannot wait to show you guys how awesome it looks. I mean, it is absolutely fantastic. And we're supposed to have a blood moon tonight due to the fact that we're going to have an eclipse. I say tonight, tomorrow morning technically. And I think it's going to be amazing. Now, of course, getting into a position where you can see it is a whole nother issue, because it's going to be on a horizon that is, I believe, opposite of the way we're looking now. So instead of seeing a sunrise that gives us, that right over the water flat view, we're going to have a moon that's coming up in a way that makes it difficult or challenging to capture. But I think I might be able to get it from here if I shoot back this way. And granted, we've got a pretty good view there. I think our moon will be coming up in that direction. But beautiful stuff. I'm having to take some pictures just because it looks kind of cool. But I will tell you that this 85 is probably not going to be 85mm Sony G Master. Maybe not the ideal lens for capturing all of this, but then again, we'll have to see. It does create some unique perspectives, and I'll have to show you guys some of that. But I got to get a ton of things done before all of that happens. I have, everything you can possibly imagine going on, and it never seems to slow down. It's just one of those things. We'll go up to the office here in just a second, but I've got an oil sensor that has gone out on this truck. Doesn't mean that the oil isn't circulating around, but at any moment that could be the case, and you don't want to mess with that on a vehicle. Luckily, thanks to good old YouTube, there is a means by which I can I can figure out how to do that, except that I don't have the extension on the ratchet set necessary to get back where I need to get to do that. So I was trying to coordinate with the mechanic, and then Saturday here we had horrific rains that got in the way of that happening. But nonetheless, you can give me what you think about it, and certainly I love to see your comments and the rest of things on issues like this. But how is it that it's so easily forgotten, the perspective of government and taxes, when it comes to revenue and what they are or not going to bring in? It doesn't matter what we've suffered. It seems that as long as government isn't going to have to reduce the amount of revenue that they bring in, then everything's hunky-dory. I don't believe that that's our definition of happiness, quite honestly. And I don't believe that anybody else would be satisfied with people who are taking money from you, getting all upset. I mean, imagine, and most people can relate to this, imagine that you have kids, especially about the time they get into college age, dropping my keys, and you and your spouse lose your job, and then you start telling them about how you don't know how you're gonna make it work because the whole business that you had is lost, and they're concerned about whether or not they're going to get money in their allowance anymore, and that's the only thing that they're focused on. It might begin to irritate you slightly. It might begin to provoke you to help them see a different perspective of things. Got to show you this angle too. This is just one of my favorite shots from this beautiful office facility place that we have here. That building, the American flag, all the other great stuff that we got. It's just a great view. And where else are you going to see great big skies like this? It's one of the wonderful things about living in one of the most free states you're going to find in the United States. That's Texas. Beautiful Wilson building view in the parking garage. It's absolutely fantastic. So anyway, if I'd have been here earlier, I probably would have had some epic sunrise photographs. But there's only so much one can do in a day with all the obligations and so forth. I tell you, I'll switch this back around here, and here we go. So as I make this morning jaunt, also for some reason I tweaked my IT band, my right knee, as I was doing yoga photography. And then, oh, you got to see this too. Again, love sharing those great views with you. Look at that. That's a view. I mean, if for nothing else, getting up early is worth it just to see that. I mean, that's just fantastic. Clearly I can see I need a wide angle lens on my big Sony A7 R2, and some of the views that you could get there would just be absolutely fantastic. There's a little bit of a different shot for you. Love that reflection. Elevators finally made it. So here we go. But Marco Electronics, again, a sponsor for all of the photography and so forth that we do, has got all sorts of great deals for you. Doesn't matter whether you're a professional photographer or you just want to have a good camera to take pictures. You can't beat what they do for you with their A6500 series. Probably the best price, 24 megapixels, and you can use all the big lenses that Sony makes with their E-mount, which is actually probably the best revolutionary lens system that's come out in some time. As far as Sony, they didn't used to be known for having great lenses. Now it's a different set of circumstances. I mean, their G Master series, absolutely fantastic. And then of course they're partnering with Zeiss. They make the glass for Zeiss, but the Zeiss coating on the Sony lenses are incredible. I mean, it really does bring out a certain look that you may not be able to identify or articulate unless you're a photographer, but you will certainly see the pictures that just stand out and pop for you. All right, we're almost to the office. Yeah, the taxpayers of Texas, especially those impacted by devastation, and they definitely need to have a bit more consideration. And I don't think we should ever hear taxing entities woeing me and oh, it's going to be bad this year, the amount of money we're going to bring in is so much less than normal. Well, guess what? Put yourself in the situation of those who you're still going to take some money from, who don't have any money coming in because of a hurricane. I mean, quite honestly, you'd like to think that maybe they could forego the taxes altogether. I know that's like foul language. They probably would find it far less offensive if maybe they had been cursed at, just as a thought. And I don't know whether this is a card for me or for someone else. Love it when people leave, that may be something that fell out of my wallet. Either that or, I don't know, we'll have to see. I haven't been to the Mac counter in a while, but nice to be inside. It's gonna warm up today though. Had a beautiful day yesterday, and love coming to work when we've got gorgeous days outside, and we have a view in which we can take advantage of all of that. But here we are anyway. This is the boardroom, if you haven't been here before, and our guests are welcome to come by here whenever necessary. But I think I have solved the dead battery issue that suffered from with all of this, because going on for 3 hours on any given day can oftentimes put the kibosh on even the best of folks. Yeah, as we reconnect now because we're in the Wi-Fi. This is a beautiful thing. Oh yeah, I actually have the part. This little thing is what can cause all sorts of headaches, apparently. Let me see if I can get this readjusted for us here. As I found out, this little part is the oil sensor. And if you don't have this working, I mean, how these things go bad is kind of beyond me, because they look pretty simple. Now, granted, I've got about 350,000 miles on my truck, but how does this go bad? This has a lifetime warranty on it, which I paid extra for because you want a lifetime warranty. I mean, if it's only like $10 more, maybe 12, why not get the lifetime warranty instead of the 1-year warranty? Will I keep it for the possibility of, and how will I ever, am I going to keep the receipt for this in 10 years if I keep it another, I don't think I'd keep it, maybe I will. I decided I'm going to try to keep this truck as long as possible, since it has gone to hell and back. It was literally stolen, driven like it was stolen, used to steal other things, and then sat in a state of lost and found, I guess, in the Rio Grande City impound. And the lack of communication on a lot of this stuff is another issue of government. When you talk about services that, by the way, the Rio Grande City PD, nicest PD you're ever going to run into. I mean, these guys were incredibly polite, considerate, and informative. I mean, for one, I didn't know that I wasn't going to have to pay impound fees, even though it was stolen from me, to get it out. And when I asked the guy there, I mean, nobody in the CCPD ever mentioned that to me. In fact, every time I talked about what it was going to cost to get it out, the best that I could get was yeah, I don't know, it's probably going to be expensive. When I talked to the PD there in Rio Grande City, they said, no, you're the victim of a crime. You're not going to have to pay to get your vehicle back. I thought, I don't even live there. I don't even pay taxes there. But that one bit of consideration, even in the way that they positioned it, the officer that was in charge, Rio Grande City is a hidden gem, unfortunately, that many people don't know about. And in a few years, the city may cease to have the benefit that they do from tourism, what they do, because there's a freeway that's going to cut them out. It's a whole nother story. But I got to tell you, this little thing is an example of, if you know how to, if you have some basic tools, fixing things yourself, you can learn how to do on YouTube. It's not too bad. But if you don't have the right tools, at one point in time I did, but that too was stolen. So yes, now without the particular tools and whatnot necessary, becomes kind of a problem. But I'll tell you this: it is it's a great thing when you run into people who have the right perspective. In fact, I've said this and I'll say it again. I think a bulk of what causes unrest, conflict, frustration, lack of trust is a lack of perspective. You know, there's people who walk around living in a world that is pretty much created by them, but not existing anywhere except in their little paradigm. It's, of course, you know, it's not uncommon, but unfortunately, it could be very uncommon if people kind of raise their kids to start thinking about what is it like to be in someone else's shoes. When you do something, how does that affect other people? Let's see if I can't get us adjusted and then leave it alone so we don't keep messing with it. But that said, a lot of things we can cover today, a lot of stuff we can talk about. One of those, and I thought this was interesting, for all this free speech on campus. Now, I don't know that I agree with these, because every time I tried to get a look at them during the news, they didn't stay up that long. But apparently there were some posters that were plastered around our college campus at Texas A&M University Corpus Christi, TEM-UCC, that were offensive to some. Now, I'm not quite clear what perspective these posters came from. One of them seemed to be, I would say, an anti-illegal immigrant poster, but again, without closer examination, it'd be very difficult for me to pour concrete on this. The only thing is that got me was the final conclusion of this news story is that these posters didn't violate any laws, rules, or anti-racist positions, but they were pulled by the college administration anyway. And I started to think, now, the trouble with this that I see is if you don't have any violation of rules, laws, or other such thing, but the college deemed them inappropriate and decided to pull them down, you know, where does that become too subjective on other issues? Even though this may be what best suits the temperament of the majority at this particular point in time, free speech not supposed to be one of those things that's always designed to satisfy whatever the majority opinion happens to be at the time. In fact, and I've had people argue with me and become highly irate over this, but it is true. The architects of our Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, wrote that with the concept and even illustrating almost verbatim that it was to protect against, you know, the trends of mob opinion. In essence, they wanted to make sure that whatever happened to be a popular knee-jerk reaction to something did not become law or did not infringe upon the rights of others, because they realize these things are temporary. And I use this as an example. Many people don't want to refer to this, but in, I guess it was the first couple of weeks after 9/11, they did a poll, and they were specifically polling minority groups. Would they support rounding up and detaining in secure facilities anyone of Middle Eastern descent? And in New York, the state of New York, and even I think more particular like New York City, something like 92% of Americans who are black were in favor of that, as well as other high percentages of everyone else. Now, would they have maintained that position a year later? I don't think the numbers would have nearly been as high, or a few months later. But in those first few moments, you can see where if we did not have certain inalienable rights specific to the individual, who in the United States of America is the one that's supposed to have the most power, more powerful than government, more powerful than the President of the United States or anyone else, is supposed to be the law-abiding, anonymous U.S. citizen. So with that also comes protections. Otherwise, you could see where people would have been run roughshod over. I mean, can you imagine after all of the historical lessons and examination of the wrongs done to Americans of Japanese descent in World War II after the bombing of Pearl Harbor and putting them in detention camps? I mean, the argument was still sound, as much as it seems horrific to us now. How do you protect those sorts of people who physically, immediately identify with the enemy that has attacked your country, and at the time, not a whole lot of sensitivity to these sorts of things, racial sensitivity, ethnic sensitivity? How do you protect those large masses of people from being lynched or murdered or abused? It was, it may have been a necessary evil. It didn't have to be conducted in exactly the same way, because people lost a lot of property, people lost assets, things that shouldn't have happened, even if it was done, under some sort of special circumstances. But here, it could have duplicated itself again. Had it not been for the Constitution of the United States of America, the education and the sensitivity of the people, by popular vote, everybody who was of Middle Eastern descent would have been rounded up, including the overwhelming majority of people who are high-speed, low-drag, red, white, and blue-blooded, patriotic Americans. I mean, these are the lessons that free speech and our Bill of Rights should teach us. And yet, still, I wonder, even when it comes to unpopular speech, I mean, this is the whole premise of the Civil Liberties Union, which I've had issue with because of their selective choice in areas in which they are going to represent people on a basis of free speech. They love to represent Nazis and Klansmen, not because they love them or what they stand for, but the ACLU says that these are some of the most contentious groups with the most unpopular speech. And if their speech is protected, then certainly, because that bar is so far to the extreme, so will the speech for everyone else. And it's a solid, sound argument. The only thing is that there's other groups that have been treated or have a perspective equal to that would also help to establish it as a solid, strong right of ours to express ourselves, whatever political opinions we may have, no matter how politically unpopular they may be. And the ACLU is not always that interested in getting involved. But no one's perfect. So be that as it may, they have done us all a benefit, even though we despise the inconsistency, the judgment, the goals or objectives of some of these groups. Because their speech is protected, ours is protected. And we have a very rare privilege in this country with the ability to be able to say what we want in legitimate areas without having to worry about some sort of retribution coming. And that is a rarity, because even in countries in which we consider to be advanced or modern, metropolitan, civilized areas, they don't always enjoy that same sort of freedom. And there are more limitations on what they can say than what we can. I mean, Great Britain has probably the closest free speech to what we have in the United States, but in that country, they have never had, in the history of its existence, the greatest power written by law in the possession of their law-abiding citizens. So, that said, I still think it's important that we take a very close look at what we do with our government and how we see our government, because there is certainly a mentality that would slip into that same perspective that so many throughout history have had, which is to see their people as a source of revenue and people who need to be controlled and limited in what they do, because everybody's potentially at any moment in time a problem for government society. You know, we've had quite a number of things in this country that have proven that fear to be something that is made no better by restrictions than, in fact, the consequences and the loss of freedom are far higher when you try to restrict your population and what they can do. But that said, still love to get in and hear some of your opinions. I appreciate you sharing this, if you will, by the way. In fact, I did not do that myself, and I should, because I know that there's many people who still have not yet subscribed and clicked on the little bell, if you click on the little bell after you click on subscribe underneath the video of this, it will make it a point to let you know whenever we do go live, so that way you can catch it while it's live. And we'll make it a point to try to help out with that as much as possible. But it's not always easy because it's like so many things going on at one time. The posters on our college campus, again, one of those things that is concerning to me, because we have seen college campus problems throughout. That this is supposed to be a place where we have free speech, supposed to be a place where we have all sorts of opportunity, and yet, regardless of all of that, we still seem to find that we're unable to truly. You can still disagree with it, you can still dissect it, but as far as going out and stifling that, suppressing that speech, that's where we're supposed to stop. Then maybe that would be a criteria as far as what would need to be done and getting a lot of the violence that was going on there. In fact, I think evidence now shows that there was an individual who was part of a Marxist communist group that was responsible for bringing a .38 special revolver and firing at the state guard who'd been called in to try to make sure that the violence did not erupt into something that was uncontainable. And so that individual, his name escapes me at this moment in time, but it's one of those things that's been lost throughout history, because once again, the narrative that was put out worked for the agenda of the politics of the time, and it was a completely instigated or overreaction from military, because it helped to demonize military during the Vietnam War, and that's really one of those main things. But as I say this, I'm going to grab some water quickly here. Man, we even have some treats that we have brought out. It's awesome. I'm here at the Cactus Law Firm, by the way, who I share an office in their suite, and thanks to them and their gracious hospitality, we have use of this fantastic boardroom. And let's see, what do we got here? What is the app that's closing? I'll have to see. There is sadly a very weak Wi-Fi connection here, and I would just switch over to my 4G, but it doesn't always seem to want to switch, and if I do, I may lose the connection, have to start this all over again. I keep telling people, drink more water. Most people don't drink enough. A little tidbit of health tip there. If you drink more water, you're going to wake up quicker in the morning and be able to get going, and what caffeine you do consume will have a better effect on you. If you do drink coffee in the morning, a lot of people though find that if they're more appropriately hydrated, they get going a lot better. And I used to not drink enough water. Probably still don't drink enough water all the time. It's delicious though. And again, please share this if you will, and you can share it on your social media, and subscribe and click the little bell. That way you'll make sure and get a notification when we get on. As soon as we get 100 subscribers, we're not too far away. I think we had 56 or 58 when I looked this morning, and that's fantastic, because we're that much closer. When we get to 100, I can label my own channel, which also opens up some other opportunities for us to do other things with too. So I'll make it a point to be a bit more consistent when I do this. It's been a busy time though in starting up Armory Outfitters USA, having to contend with the fact that there is a bias of bigotry and discrimination placed against anybody who's selling cutlery as if it's a terrorist weapon of some sort. I mean, granted, I guess you could say by medieval standards, maybe even 17th century standards, I'm an international arms dealer. But cutlery has so many useful purposes, and as of yet, I mean, we do offer swords. I have not posted that as of yet. That'll be something new I add to our lineup. But yeah, I mean, we do, but I mean, if honestly we start to see criminal elements carrying swords, we've made an improvement to a great degree. I mean, we do have in the state of Texas too a license to carry. You can carry openly or concealed, and I mean, swords are cool and all. Don't get me wrong, but you don't want to have to go up against legitimate forces with firearms. I mean, it's kind of the ultimate check on those things, and in every form, fashion, or shape you can imagine of blade, we offer that in some context. In fact, scissors are something else. We make some fantastic scissors. Armory Outfitters USA is an American partnership with the premier manufacturer of goods, not just blades, but all sorts of goods in Pakistan. And through this partnership, we're able to offer you a superior quality blade, scissor, whatever it may be, and at a price that is superior in its savings to anything else I've seen. I mean, I give example after example, but I mean, you're looking at things that even at our highest price range are still far better than what you would end up paying if you were to acquire that anywhere else, and may not be getting the same. Certainly, if it's coming from outside the United States, you could not guarantee the kind of quality that we bring to it. And I bring out, this is like one of our most expensive out of all those that we make. This is D2 steel. D2 is by far, in my opinion, the superior steel of blade making. And you can see the fit and finish on this is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, the perfection, that's hand tooling that oftentimes is just left out because others do not want to take the time that is required to put that into every aspect of it. And it's full tang construction, which is the only type of knife you really want to get when it comes to a sheath knife. Full tang means this blade, even as it goes below the hilt all the way through to the handle, and they leave a screw-on cap visible so that you can at least have some determination between this and many of the copies. Most everything that's come out of manufacturing from Pakistan to the United States, no, I would say everything, save for what U.S. Business like Armory Outfitters USA is producing, is a copy of our manufacturer here. This D2 steel is the steel that is used to make the tools that cut the other hardest steels that exist out there, often referred to as designer steels. So it is the hardest of the hard steels. Takes a bit if you let it get really dull to get an edge back on it. This is why I recommend that you touch it up every now and then. But it will hold an edge, a razor's edge, through a lot of work that you're going to put into this, whether it's for skinning or clearing brush, an all-around true survival knife. This would be it. It's got hardwood in the handle, fit together with different handle materials because in the different temperatures, whether it's cold or heat or whatever it may be, it creates a grip of its own because your brass spacers and your hardwoods of different materials and your fiber spacers that are stacked together, they expand and contract at different rates and different temperatures. So it creates a grip of its own as well as an aesthetic appeal. But even down to the cap, you have hand tooling that's gone into all of this. And this knife we sell at a phenomenal price of only $450. But again, this is some of the most expensive steel you're going to find in the world. Some of the hardest steel you're going to find in the world. I've got it to an edge that I'm happy to say will shave hair. And then they've taken the extra step, which many people don't do, and that is to polish the blade. Because it is so hard, that in and of itself is time consuming. I mean, you could use it as a mirror if necessary. And of course, that also creates quite the fast and quick agility in the blade, as well as the design. If you're cutting through anything on the pull, because you have a belly that is produced here on a straight back, this blade design is phenomenal for just about anything you'd want to do, but it aids in the cutting process. So if you're quartering up protein for preparation and cooking, or whether you're like I said, utilizing this to clear brush, you've got a fantastic edge. Incredible stuff. Anyway, if you were to have this here in the United States, this would be at least, a $1,000 blade plus and on up because of the quality of that steel and the hand tooling that goes into that. A lot of the manufacturing is a combination of CNC machining so that you can get exact dimensions, thicknesses, and the like. And then, of course, the hand craftsmanship of masters in the art of knife making. And this is probably one of the most rugged, hardened, battle-ready Bowie-style knives that you would find anywhere. I mean, and again, and that's at the upper end of it, $450. Of course, they specialize in Damascus steel because Damascus is a blended original designer steel that has a following because of its beautiful watered, like oil on water type of look to it. But those are two different types of steel that are blended together so that you get both the rugged edge holding ability and durability. Now it's not on the same Rockwell hardness scale as what you would find with a D2, but a phenomenal performing type blade. And this is an antler horned handle, and water buffalo is where the black you'd see there, and Damascus everywhere else. Also full tank construction. This blade continues all the way down underneath the handle, and then at the edge here it is threaded as this cap is screwed into place and mounted together. So you have the strongest construction. Again, a very similar style in that it has that belly to it, but this is a clip point style, or a trailing clip point style blade. So you know, when it comes to skinning or slicing or those sorts of things, you have an edge designed specifically for that. But this, again, is a phenomenal knife, and for just $250 from ArmoryOutfittersUSA.com. ArmoryOutfittersUSA.com. It is absolutely amazing. I believe I call this the White Lightning, simply because it is fast and it is solid construction and just a pleasure to use. I mean, it really is one of my favorite blades. In fact, it was difficult to choose. This was one of my favorites when I was going to decide which one I was, out of this latest shipment and design, which one I was going to keep for myself. I picked one that was a bit bigger than that, but I wasn't one I thought I would initially find as my favorite. But this is another thing that we offer. I call it the Royal Battle Bowie because it looks reminiscent of some of the Irish personal swords of historical past, and the brass hilt and the design of it is excellent for keeping a good grip no matter what slipping conditions you may have, as well as this blade is incredibly well balanced. And as you can see, again, this is just $325, but the fit and finish on it is surpassed by none. All of these, almost all of these blades have a hollow ground edge to them, meaning it's concave here, so that it aids in creating a very sharp edge that you can utilize for just about anything. And I have this pretty much perfected now as far as the sharpening process goes for my own personal ones. And I've taken an extra step in knife care, which is good for just about anything. And you can find Frog Lube in many different places if you look for it. It's completely, if you like this sort of thing anyway, it's completely green, literally and figuratively speaking. It's probably the most revolutionary design if you do it appropriately, and that is this: you have to heat the metal first. So I'll use a hair dryer till it's hot to the touch, and then this Frog Lube, which, by the way, because it's completely green, it's non-toxic. It has no overwhelming chemical smell to it. It smells slightly minty, if anything. And you know, I wouldn't recommend you do it. I don't think it would taste fantastic. I've tasted it before. It's kind of bland, but it's not poisonous. So if kids ate it, animals lick it, whatever else it is, you're not going to have any residual effect to it. But first, you have to degrease and remove all the oils and everything else that's on a blade. It's designed for lubricating and functioning in the hottest conditions that you could have with firearms. But once you heat the metal and you apply it, it runs like butter, and then you wipe off the excess, but it bonds with the steel at a molecular level, and it gives it a rust protection that is the best that I have come across. Not to mention the fact that if you're going to cut food and other such stuff with it, you don't have to worry about getting that oily taste or chemicals off of your blade onto the meat. And after that, the only thing you may have to worry about is that sharpening edge, just slightly retouching it from time to time, because that's where, if you sharpen it, you're going to be grinding away surface protection and things of that nature. But it is an incredibly well made product, and I've used it on all my ARs and M4s and semi-automatics as well as bolt action rifles, and I've used it with great success. I've not had it fail on me if you apply it appropriately, but that means completely degreasing and removing any oil, because any residual oil that you have will prevent the frog lube from bonding at that molecular level and creating not only a lubricant but a protection from oxidation, corrosion, and that sort of thing. So I treated my own blade with that, and may I even offer that as a service with others. But it is absolutely fantastic, and soon we'll be doing some demonstrations. In fact, as I understand it, this is a tentative thing at this point, but I believe it's a go. Have a property owner that has had a problem with predators taking out his deer population and you know, becoming somewhat of a problem. So we're going to, on one of our next episodes, we'll take you out to this property. We'll do a live show from there, and we'll create an ambush site to help eradicate some of those predators, and it'll be a great place to utilize some of the Armory Outfitters USA blades. And so we'll do that and show you some technique in brush blinding, brush blind building, and also some of the performance of these blades and how effective they are. In fact, I'll take a few of them out there just to demonstrate. Then we'll build the brush blind, and then we'll return later, probably the following day or 2 days after you've let things settle down. After you build a new ambush site to help eradicate predators or other vicious vermin and critters, you need to make sure to let the area become still, because you've disturbed it, you've made noise, you've left scent, and especially if you've been working and sweating, and you need to let all of that calm down a bit. Then come back and we'll demonstrate, I'll show you ways to call in these predators, and then once we've eliminated them, you know, we can show you more from there as well. But predator calling, as they refer to it, is oftentimes one of those things that takes a bit of skill and some practice. I'm probably by far not the best in the world, but I've done it enough to develop some skill. Hopefully we'll get lucky, and I can show you ways to do that. Also, like I said, it'll be a great place to demonstrate some of the effectiveness of the blades from Armory Outfitters USA, and it'll be cool to see some of the stuff there too. They've got some beautiful scenery for sunrises, as I've seen from other photographs, so I'll be taking my camera at the same time. And I'll have a partner, a buddy of mine, that I'll bring along, who hopefully can run camera and some other things while I operate the firearm and do some of those things. So all of that should be pretty exciting. That's coming up. I'll let you know more about that as we get closer. But we're talking about a few things. If you've just joined us, you may have to go back and review some of this. We'll post this right after this is done. But it is a fantastic day to get out and enjoy yourself. Beautiful weather if you're in Texas. We had a gorgeous sunrise that I missed the best part of, but I had work to do. I've got work to do today. I've got a number of things. We'll start doing more and more of this. We're going to have a regular guest start coming in. We'll get back some of our other regular guests and move on from there. But I'm trying to get 3 businesses started at the same time. And with the expansion of the marketing company, we've added an IT expert with security and monitoring, as well as a website developer that is fantastic. So all of that will be part of what is available to you through Social Media Moguls. And in addition to that, we'll try to help spread some of the expertise and the wisdom. So if you're wanting tips on starting your own business, developing a website, having an online portal, you want marketing expertise, you're looking for products that'll help you do what you do every day, we've got all that for you. And commentary on some of the latest and greatest of local events. So we'll hit you with all that. And then in addition to that, if you subscribe to this channel, plus click on the little bell, and please follow me on my Tuxedo page on Facebook. That's my public figure page. You can also follow Social Media Moguls and Eric Von Wade Photography, please, as well as Armory Outfitters USA and the website armoryoutfittersusa.com. We'll try to keep you up to date on a number of things that are going on. But I got to say that there's a lot of stuff coming, and I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate you helping to share and extend this to all of your friends and your circles. So we'll have all of that for you. I'm going to get to work this morning because I've got some stuff I've got to do. I've got some big photography projects coming up, actually, that I'm in the middle of, as well as adding some new product and other materials for Armory Outfitters USA. And I appreciate those of you who've taken time to rate and give a positive rating to Armory Outfitters USA. We do offer the best quality cutlery and more that's coming soon. We'll have some leather jackets and other apparel, custom designed by yours truly, as well as modifications on designs that already exist through my manufacturer, who is the preeminent Indo-Asia manufacturer of many things. I mean, we make it all, from gloves, boots, even my knee-high, snake-proof quail hunting boots I've been wearing a lot lately because of how cold it is. I believe we can start mass-producing those as well, and so that'll be another thing for you to look for. And again, if you're in the need of having something manufactured on a large scale, and you want your own brand, your own design, your own something, we can handle that for you as well. So all of that keeps you very busy, and we'll be talking to you about all that soon. So thanks for being here. Appreciate you sharing this with anybody and everybody that you can, and we'll have much more of it very soon. I want to thank all those who are participating sponsors of all that we're doing, from Masters Eyewear Optical, and again, Linda and Ram, husband and wife team. If you go see these folks for any kind of glasses, frames, they have the best prices. They fit everything exactly as it should be, from Versace to sunglasses and your prescription if you need it or not. Either way, you're going to find the best prices and the best service. And with Valentine's Day coming up, a lot of great ideas. Ladies, if you're looking for something for your guy, sunglasses may be the right answer for you. Everybody looks cool in a pair of shades. In fact, I'll show off mine. I can't believe I haven't shown them to you so far. But, I mean, these happen to be some of the best things I've ever seen Oakley come up with. I carry them with me all over the place. And they're a matte black, although they also have them in a gold frame, a matte gold. It was difficult for me not to take the gold. It was very, like, a modern application of Elvis. But these are super lightweight. You can wear them with just about anything. In fact, if I was a drummer, I'd wear these all the time. Apparently, drummers, are supposed to wear sunglasses day or night. Or if I was, with U2 or something, that was Bono, you could wear these all the time and not have to worry about it, because it just goes well even if you're wearing a cowboy hat, which is hard to find sunglasses that look good with a cowboy hat. It's just one of those things. But I feel like they could work. They pass, And not that I wear a hat all the time. Once summer hits, you probably won't see me wearing a hat. But little tidbit, especially if you're from Texas, southern Texas, when it's cold, if you don't have your head covered, you're losing a lot of the heat to the top of your head. Your hands, your feet, and your head are some of the most important things to keep covered and warm when it's cold. And I feel like many people are going, how do people not know this? Well, they live in areas where it is not always as cold as it is currently. So that's how they miss that. But anyway, that said, I'll tell you, if you go by, you'll be very happy. These are the slickest looking things. They weigh next to nothing, but they are super tough. And so, I mean, it is absolutely amazing. And I mean, just the durability of these things, the slim line nature of it. Only one place to go, of course, and Masters Eyewear Optical. Be happy to take care of you. You can drop my name over there. It's always good. Check them out on Facebook, Masters Eyewear Optical. And I'll be adding some original content and some other cool things here very shortly. They're going to have an Instagram and a YouTube as well. So they'll start helping to tell you about a few things about how to properly clean these. One thing everybody should know: where do you clean your lenses when they're dirty? Obviously, you take no, you don't do that. Boy, I'm telling you, I got jumped all over the other day. I had some cheap reading glasses, and I was like, no. So they have fantastic cleaning cloths. In fact, if you haven't checked this out yet, you should. See right there, except that it's backwards. That's the only thing. It's like I'll have to do the reverse on that. But yes, they have cleaning cloths that are fantastic, so that way you're not scratching your lenses or prematurely rubbing off all of the great lens coating that's on there for you. And again, great product all the way around. I love these sunglasses. These are the coolest new designs and sunglasses that I've seen because they go with just about everything. And that's like your first pair of sunglasses you should have with the greatest versatility, because black goes with everything. It's hard to beat that. But when it comes to lenses as well, I mean, look, why not get another pair of frames for your prescription lenses so you have more versatility in what you do and what you wear? It only makes sense. And but this is going to be a great day for that because it is bright, it is sunny, and these come with a nice Oakley little design here, and you can't beat it. I mean, you got to check these out. And again, Masters Eyewear Optical, best place to go. You can make an appointment over there if you need to get a prescription for which I do. They hook me up. I have an appointment coming up with an optometrist, so I can get my exact instead of just what seemed to work good when I went to the convenience store. These things, the problem with that is you can't ever keep these anywhere, and you got to keep taking them on and off. If you try to do this with these flimsy things, every time you lean over, they're falling out. And on top of that, great if I'm going to read, I suppose, but anytime I want to see at a distance, I've got great vision at distance. I don't need them. I got to put them up on top of my head. Also, it seems that this is a magic trick for some people that they can't seem to keep their glasses on top of their head. It's really nothing special that I'm doing. It's that my genetic ancestry has a lot of Neanderthal in it, and they have a ridge brow that protrudes. That's part of the genetic contribution. That, and I've got a knot at the back of my base of my skull, which is I forget what they call that, something knot of some sort or whatever. Anyway, that's another genetic contribution from Neanderthal. So if I wanted to put my glasses in the back of my head, they would hang there too. Some people do that. It's not my thing. I got product in my hair. It's going to get over my lenses. Why don't put it on top of my hair? Besides that, it messes your hair up. I mean, you got to think about these things ahead of time. So anyway, that said, get by and see them. And of course, Marco Electronics, they specialize in televisions and the best price, the best quality, the best installation, and connecting it with all your audio systems. But they also have the best in cameras, and that's the Sony mirrorless. You're able to get, this is top of the line, Sony A7 R2, 42 megapixels, and if you look at the thickness of the frame on this, that is by far smaller than anything that used to exist not that long ago. And without the sunshade, you can see this is one of their bigger lenses. It's an 85 millimeter G Master, and it is probably, like I said earlier, the best increase in technology that has come out. Now, this camera body is more along the lines and price of a commercial camera body. It's $3,500 just for the body part of it. This lens runs about $2,000, but of course, when you see the pictures that it produces, it's worth every penny of it. You're not going to be disappointed. But that said, you don't have to go to that route. I mean, there is a 24. This is 42 megapixels. You can get 24, which is still more than many of your, or as much as many of your other full-line professional cameras. But they have an A6500, 6500. A is for Alpha, Sony Alpha 6500, and that is only $549, which is a great price because it's still, you can shoot in 4K video, which is higher than most people can edit or than television stations can handle at this point in time. And with that 4K though, at Marco Electronics, they do offer a fantastic setup with, I think they only have one model in so far, but there is a television that's 4K that they have over there for sale now at a great deal that you can watch your full 4K quality video on and see better quality video than you're going to watch on television shows and the like, for sure. Anyway, that said, when you get that A6500, You can shoot in full auto, so if you're afraid to experiment with adjusting anything or changing anything on your camera, it's not a problem. You can get all of that taken care of in auto, but also it has great advantages. And if you want to shoot at different angles, you've got a flip out screen, so if I'm shooting up high, I can still see what I'm doing. If I'm going to shoot low and I don't want to have to lay down in the dirt, I can even get pure vertical with it like this, so I can lean over and shoot. It makes it a lot easier for you in some circumstances to take pictures from different angles and not have to get down in the dirt or down on the ground. Now, if I'm working full time, I don't mind that, but I mean, I will utilize all this and then still in some cases need to get down on the ground and in different positions. So the A6500 gives you all of that same functionality and versatility, plus you have a real-time view in your viewfinder, meaning what colors you see and what kind of a look you see here is reflected in the actual picture that's going to be taken. A lot of preview windows of other cameras don't give you the full idea of what it looks like. You would still have to check through the eyepiece in the viewfinder. And of course, there's not that many that are completely mirrorless now. The mirrorless cameras, you're seeing the digital image that is the capture that will happen when you release the shutter. So, I mean, so many advantages to it. The Sony really is the way to go. And once you learn how to utilize it, it is different than the other designs, but it's so much simpler than so many other camera designs. Now, eventually, Canon and others will catch up to this, but in my opinion now, Sony really has locked on to the superior design and lens systems. You can get any range of different quality and price lenses, but even if you wanted to go to something as full range, top class as the G Master 85 or 50 millimeter 1.4 Zeiss coated lens, that's the other lens I use a lot, they will mount to that A6500, and it's an even smaller body than this. So what you used to consider a compact camera now is the same size as the full size. So if you travel or if you only use the photographs for documenting things in whatever specific line of work, it's not technically photography, but you want to utilize it for a wide variety of things and get the best quality images and the ability to crop and magnify without losing quality, then you want to go with something like that Sony 6500 versus some prepackaged thing you're going to end up paying as much for by the time you get everything else you need at the big box store. And at Marco Electronics, they know how to use cameras to their full extent, so if you have questions or anything like that, they're going to be able to answer them for you, and that's a big plus. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. I got to get to work. I know it's a little bit early. We'll extend this as we get a little bit longer, but I didn't want to leave you guys without contributing something. Yesterday, I was a bit exhausted, under the weather. I'd been working long hours in the photography area of things. So we'll be back soon, and we'll have more for you. Make good choices, have a happy life, and we will talk to you soon.